In the empty rooms of his home, wandering among boxes full of his family's belongings, Matt Turner remembered better days. He missed his mother, who had died several years ago. He was angry at his father, Steve, for remarrying and for moving the family out to the countryside, just as school was starting. He knew he would be bored in the middle of nowhere. While the family prepared to leave, his younger sister Jennifer was still watching television. Matt defiantly changed the channel from a Lassie rerun to MTV. He had been rude to everyone lately, especially his stepmother Laura. Outside, as his family loaded the station wagon, Matt practiced his skateboard maneuvers. Would there be asphalt out in the country? What would he do for fun, he wondered. He wanted to stay in Baltimore with his friends instead of moving to the Virginia countryside. It was time to go. Matt climbed into the station wagon and put on his headphones. Jennifer soon fell asleep. The trip would take hours. They were headed to Franklin Falls, where Matt's mother was raised. The family was going to move into her old house. Hours later, just after nightfall, raindrops splattered hard against the windshield. "Look out!" Laura cried suddenly. Steve slammed on the brakes. There was an accident up ahead. Police cars and ambulances blocked the road. Their lights flashed brightly. The Turners got out to see if they could help. The storm had caused a rancher to crash his truck. His sheep were roaming the highway. At the roadside, a beautiful collie looked on as people tended to the driver on the stretcher. "Matt, look," Jennifer said as she tugged his sleeve. She pointed to the beautiful dog, now alone without a master. "It's Lassie," she insisted.
Hey, Matt, look, it's Lassie!
Jennifer, please, you know there's no such thing as Lassie. First Santa Claus, now that... Holy cow.
See? I told you, it is Lassie!
Jennifer.
It's Lassie, Dad!
Jennifer, don't touch a strange dog. Come on.
Hurt.
Jen, he'll be fine. Come on.
It's a she.
Come on.
We can't just leave her here.
Sure we can.
Steve.
Honey, please.
She's all alone.
Matt, hop in.
The collie barked and wagged her tail as she gazed at Matt. He didn't seem to care. As the Turners left the accident scene, the rain-soaked collie dashed into the woods. Later that night, the Turners stopped for burgers and soda. Matt wasn't interested in food. He already missed his home. Jennifer looked out the diner window and gasped. "Look, it's Lassie! She's back!" Everyone looked. Sure enough, the collie had followed them to the restaurant. Outside, Jennifer begged her father to keep the dog. "It probably belongs to someone," he said. The collie licked his hand, then turned to Matt and lovingly nuzzled him. Steve and Laura smiled, hoping the dog would cheer up Matt. The young boy wasn't impressed. He pulled himself away from the dog's wet tongue. Jennifer pleaded with her father again. Laura wanted to keep the collie too. Finally, Steve agreed, and they named their new dog Lassie. The dog sat with Matt and Jennifer for the rest of the trip.
Look who's talking.
I don't have fur.
The next morning, the family arrived at Franklin Falls. They parked in front of an old, weathered building. As Matt looked around, a familiar voice boomed behind him. "There's my grandkids!" Grandpa Len shouted happily. After Matt and Jennifer hugged Grandpa Len, Steve introduced his father-in-law to his new wife, Laura. The old man missed his daughter, but he warmly welcomed Laura into the family. Just then, Lassie came forward and barked for attention. Grandpa Len noticed how beautiful the dog was. Its fluffy tan and white fur shimmered in the sun.
Hey, what do we have here?
That's a new dog.
Oh, it's just a stray we picked up on the side of the road.
Just a stray? This is a beautiful dog. It's a fine pedigree, I bet you.
See?
The Turner family climbed into the station wagon and headed toward their new home. Pretty soon, the family came upon a fabulous modern house. Even Matt was impressed. "Is that our new house?" Jennifer asked. "No, sweetie," Steve said quickly. "We're up the road a bit." The car struggled up the rugged, muddy road. It stopped in front of the Turners' new home. The house was old and rickety. Inside, a note announced there would be no electricity for a few weeks. As the Turners unpacked the car, Matt grew angry. There were no lights, no television, and worst of all, no pavement for skateboarding. That night, Matt lay in his new bed. He hated this place. It seemed wrong to live in his mother's old house without her. Just then, Lassie scratched at the door. She pushed it open, her tail wagging happily. Matt barely noticed that she had come in to sleep at his bedside. The next morning, Matt awakened to a warm, radiant sun. Through his window, the view of the landscape was spectacular. After breakfast, Steve left to see about his new job with the Jarman family. Laura asked Matt and Jennifer to join her for a walk, but Matt ignored her. He didn't even turn off his headphones when his stepmother spoke to him. Just then, Lassie burst into the room and playfully stole Matt's headphones. Angry, he yelled and chased after the dog, but she was too fast. Lassie led Matt through the house, across the meadow, and into the woods.
What do you want? Hey, come on, cut it out. Look, I said cut it out. Hey! Hey! Come back here! Come on, give me those! Stop this right now! I'm gonna kill you! Give me my headphones! Hey, wait a minute! Stay! Stay! Heel!
Lassie led Matt to a beautiful waterfall. The water flowed into a crystal-clear pool. Hanging from a tree over the pool was a rope swing. Matt was enchanted. He spent hours playing with Lassie and splashing in the pure, clean water. On his way home, Matt was startled by a man holding a rifle. He was aiming it at Lassie. It was Sam Garland, the Turners' new neighbor. Sam was surprised to see the young boy on the land. Sam lowered his rifle when he learned that Matt was his new neighbor. He didn't seem happy to have people moving in next door. When Matt returned home, his father had bad news. He was supposed to build a house for the Jarman family, but they had run out of money. Now, Matt's parents weren't sure if the family could stay in Franklin Falls. To his family's surprise, Matt had mixed feelings. He was actually starting to like it here. The next day, Jennifer and Matt started school. The building was much smaller than his last school. There were other differences too. Matt was surprised to see a girl bring in a live baby goat for show and tell. Outside, Lassie waited for Matt to finish class. On his way home after school, Matt discovered his mother's initials, AC, carved in an old oak tree. It felt strange to think that his mother had been there too. He wished he could share the view of the farm with her. That evening, Grandpa Len showed Matt how to build a fire. Lightning and thunder roared outside. Matt still thought of his mother. He just couldn't accept his stepmother Laura in her place. Abruptly, he stormed upstairs. He wanted to be alone. Lassie watched as Matt tossed a tennis ball around his room. Accidentally, the ball flew into an open closet. When it landed, Matt heard a loud crash. While cleaning up, he discovered his mother's diary. Inside, he learned of her secret wish to have a sheep farm. Reading the diary made him feel closer to his mother, but now he missed her more than ever. Hearing his family laugh downstairs made him feel even worse. He slipped out of the house, alone, into the wild storm. Lassie knew it wasn't safe for Matt to be outside. The collie barked and barked, trying to get Steve to let her out. She wanted to protect Matt, but the father didn't understand.
Lassie, believe me, you don't want to go out next door.
If we do it like
Oh, that'd be great.
Determined, Lassie climbed through a window and into the storm to find her companion. Matt headed for his secret place, the pool by the waterfall. He was wet and cold, but he found shelter in a dark cave. Soon he sensed that something was watching him. He looked up to see a large gray wolf with yellow eyes staring right at him. Matt was frozen with fear. The wolf growled and snarled. Just when it seemed like it was ready to attack Matt, Lassie was there to protect him. Immediately, the two animals attacked each other. Matt could barely see. Lightning flashes illuminated the battling dogs. Then it was quiet. As Matt crept toward the cave entrance, Lassie suddenly came forward. She licked Matt's face. Lassie had saved Matt's life. They huddled in the cold air and waited for the storm to end. Matt was beginning to like Franklin Falls. He loved going to his secret place, the fabulous swimming hole. One day, as he practiced his backflips, Matt noticed 3 people watching him. They were Sam Garland's young sons, Jim and Josh, and the girl with the goat in class, April. Matt learned that the boys lived in the huge modern house up the road and that their father ran a sheep ranch. April was very polite, but Josh and Jim challenged Matt to do another backflip. When he did it with style, they invited him to their home. The Garland home was extravagant inside, too. It had everything, Matt thought. A swimming pool, pinball machine, even a real soda fountain. Jim showed off his rifle, but Matt wasn't impressed. He wasn't sure if he liked the Garlands, but he thought April was pretty cool. On the way home from the Garlands, Lassie suddenly ran off. Matt followed her and discovered her standing over a baby lamb. It bleated pitifully. A few feet away, its mother lay dead, killed by coyotes. Lassie would not leave until Matt picked up the lamb to carry it home.
All right. Come on, lad.
Matt knew he would need help to care for the lamb. He immediately thought of April. He asked her how to feed and raise the little animal.
Keep a blanket over it tonight, because it probably gets pretty cold in here. I'll bring you some extra formula tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah, you do. I don't think it's hurt or anything. It just looks really hungry.
Admiring April's skill, Matt smiled. She really knew what she was doing. That night, Jennifer broke the bad news to Matt. The family was moving back to their old home. There was no work for his father in Franklin Falls, but he did have a job offer back in Baltimore. Jennifer and Steve were thrilled, but Matt was not. He didn't want to leave. That night, Matt couldn't sleep. If the family moved back, he wondered, what would happen to Lassie? What about the little lamb? Thinking of the helpless creature reminded him of his mother's secret wish, of one day running a sheep farm. Matt grinned. Maybe they could start a sheep farm. The Garlands made a good living at it, so why not his family? A sheep farm would let them stay in Franklin Falls. It sounded crazy, but Matt loved the idea. Before he fell asleep, he decided he would do some research the next day. The following evening, Matt showed his family what he and April had discovered. For years, the Garlands had been using the Turners' property to graze their sheep. The Turners owned the best grazing land in the area, and the Garlands were making a fortune off of it. Steve Turner smiled as he watched Matt and April feed the little lamb with a baby bottle. He was glad to see his son happy. When Grandpa Len volunteered half of the money to start the sheep farm, the family was convinced they should take a chance. They decided to stay in Franklin Falls. First, the Turners had to get some sheep. They visited Mr. Jarman, who sold livestock from his huge farm. He was under pressure to sell his flock to Sam Garland, but he finally agreed to sell all his sheep to the Turners. The Turners had 10 days to prepare their land for the new flock. Lassie followed Matt everywhere, barking and encouraging him. Even April came to help. Matt and April's little lamb would be the first resident of the new barn. Finally, the Turners were ready to complete the fence. Lassie drove the Garland sheep away so the Turners could seal their property. Matt was pleased, but Josh and Jim Garland were not. They had been watching everything from their hilltop. They rushed home to tell their father. When it was time for the Turners to pick up their sheep, Sam Garland wouldn't stand for it. He was the biggest sheep farmer in the area, and he didn't want any competition.
Say, where you going with my sheep? I thought we had a deal, Pete. We did. They're paying more money. It's simple business. Buying sheep is simple. Just make a living off of it. Not so simple. Am I right, Pete? Don't misunderstand me. I can buy sheep anywhere. Anywhere, any place. Now, this flock is yours. I'm just here in case you want to reconsider.
Reconsider? Why should we?
Oh, Pete's a full-time farmer. He couldn't cut it. Ever think about that?
We're aware of the risks.
He insisted that Mr. Jarman sell the sheep to him instead, but Mr. Jarman refused. Angry, Sam Garland and his boys left. The Turners returned to their work. It took hours to get all the sheep onto their land. Finally, the entire flock was snug in their new barn. The Turner farm was alive with the sound of bleating sheep. The next day, as the Turners drove toward town, Jim and Josh Garland started their motorbikes nearby. Lassie was in the back of the truck, and she sensed there was trouble brewing. Lassie jumped out of the truck unnoticed and headed back to the sheep pens. The Garland boys were headed in that direction too. When Lassie arrived, she discovered Josh loosening the gate as Jim watched. She rushed up to them, barking and snapping and growling. Frightened, the two boys ran off. When the Turners returned, Lassie sat on the porch, wagging her tail. They didn't notice anything wrong. The Garlands weren't giving up. That night, Lassie heard a noise outside. When she tried to patrol the area, Josh and Jim captured her with a net. Back on the Garland property, she was thrown into a deserted barn. Lassie had to get out and tell Matt there was trouble. She tried digging her way out, but it was useless. The only way out of the dark, dingy barn was a high window. She gathered her strength. She raced toward the wall and leapt, but her jump wasn't high enough. Another try, and then another, but still too low for the window. Lassie was getting tired. Finally, Lassie concentrated for one last jump. She focused on the window. She raced as fast as she could, then surged through the air. Her feet scratched against the wall as she pulled herself up through the window. She did it! Lassie jumped down and headed home. Matt awakened to the sound of Lassie's desperate barking. He dressed quickly and followed Lassie out to the pasture. The sheep were gone. At the crest of a nearby hill, Matt couldn't believe his eyes. The Garlands had gathered the Turner sheep and fenced them inside a hidden meadow on Garland land. They had stolen the Turner's flock. Quickly, Matt and Lassie began herding the sheep back toward their land. Suddenly, a threatening voice interrupted them. "Where are you going with our sheep?" questioned Josh. The Garland boys had been waiting for Matt to arrive. Matt refused to stop. Josh raised his rifle and pointed it at Lassie.
Go home, Lassie!
"No!" cried Matt. He tackled Josh, and the gun fired off into the distance, missing Lassie. Matt yanked the gun away and threw it into the rushing river. Suddenly, Jim grabbed Matt's head and thrust it deep into the water. Finally, Matt broke free. He dragged Jim out of the water and to the river's edge. "Keep going," he yelled to Lassie. Just then, Josh fell into the river. He screamed for help as the strong current swept him toward the falls. Matt rushed in to save him. The river raged over rocks and fallen trees. Matt reached Josh and pushed him to the safety of the riverbank.
Take my hand!
Before he could save himself, the current pulled him back. He was headed toward the falls. As Matt struggled against the river's forces, Lassie jumped in to save him. She grabbed his clothes in her teeth and guided him to a hanging tree limb. He held the branch tightly, but before he could grab Lassie, she was pulled into the current. Tears flowed from Matt's eyes as he watched Lassie struggle helplessly toward the falls. Steve Turner arrived and pulled his son onto solid ground. Matt embraced Laura and cried in her arms. He needed a mother, and she was there for him. Sam Garland and his sons felt awful. They had let greed get the best of them. They apologized to the Turner family, then left them to be together by the shore. The next few days were hard for Matt and his family. Everyone missed Lassie. Matt even carved his dog's name in the tree below his mother's initials. Lassie was a hero, thought Matt, and he felt empty without her. Matt couldn't concentrate in class. He would just gaze out the window and think of Lassie. Suddenly, when he was staring down at his schoolwork, he sensed something. He quickly looked outside. It was Lassie. She was waiting for Matt to finish class, just like before. "Lassie!" shouted Matt. He raced through the classroom, into the halls, and out onto the playing field. He hugged his beautiful collie.
Born 1743 and died in 1826. And in the spring, the whole class will be taking a field trip to Thomas Jefferson's home in Monticello, which Mr. Jefferson designed and had constructed to his specifications. Remember he said he was an architect?
Lassie!
The whole class watched from inside. April cried with joy. Even Josh and Jim grinned. It was amazing. Lassie had somehow survived the waterfall. Lassie had come home.